Joining us now, the head coach of one of the best teams in the National Football League, 10-2, and off they go on their way to the postseason. And who knows where it will end this year for the New Orleans Saints. He is Sean Payton. Coach, welcome back. How are you?
Good, Mike. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, you know, one thing I'm fascinated by, and I want to start here. You had Peter King in your team hotel a few Saturday nights ago, and you know how other coaches are. Everybody's so guarded. Everybody's so afraid. Give me your thought process for kind of opening the door and providing access that really gives the fans a window into how a team finalizes its preparations for a game.
Yeah, listen, Peter had called prior, and we were talking on another subject, and the topic was Drew and his preparation, and he said, "Hey, I'm going to be in town. What if would I be able to get over there and just sit kind of embedded and observe, the evening meetings schedule and then how it moves to offense and defense, and then how it moves to the quarterbacks, and just to get an idea of, you say these guys prepare, you say these guys." They do so much, and I'm talking about those elite level quarterbacks. But it was a chance for someone like Peter to see actually what that is. It's film study, but here it is at the end of the week, and maybe I'm getting a little softer through the years. But look, I think it is something that, knowing Peter, that it was going to be done the right way, and certainly without any risk of, the next game. It was literally the next day, and all of the report came out the following week. So, it was a little unique, and yet I'm sure it's been done before.
There's been plenty of talk and plenty of focus in recent weeks, Coach, on the relationship between head coach and franchise quarterback, the push and the pull, the give and the take. It kind of came into sharp focus in Green Bay recently. From your perspective, though, working with Drew Brees all the way back to 2006, give us an idea of what that's like on a day in and day out, week in and week out basis.
Well, listen, in season certainly is different than the off season, but in season there is a stress to preparation, a sense of urgency each week of having the right plan, a sense of urgency by the quarterback of the timing and knowing, what are outlets, can we audible here? What can we get to here? Each week that you kind of wind that clock and it starts again. And on Wednesday, yesterday, and today, it's ticking. But as the week progresses, you're more and more comfortable with the plan. You begin to see situationally what you like, and then each week you start over again. And look, he's one of these players who's got that gift to improve those around him through his work ethic, leadership skill set, and playing ability. And I think that same thing happens with the coaches. Our pressure, our stress each night is to make sure we've covered all the things we've covered relative to this game. Have we missed anything? Do we, need this certain route? What about this run? And then who? Where are we putting our personnel in these positions? So it's, when you're having success, like anything else, you don't want to let anyone down. And I think that would certainly be at the quarterback position. That would be at the receiver position, at the running back coach or the head coach. You're wanting to make sure that you do everything you can to give ourselves the best chance to win. And so, to the relationship, there's communication constantly relative to the plan on the field, off the field, video. He's meeting right now probably 10 yards across the hallway from where my office is, and it would be very normal for me to walk over there with 3 times maybe during this meeting with questions, or this is what you're thinking, correct, or reminder, that kind of thing. And it's just it's ongoing all the way up till game time.
Your team had reached a level of domination in recent weeks that reminded me of when we were growing up in the 70s and scores would be 53-10 and 48-3 and it was going incredibly well. And then last Thursday night, a pothole emerged with the Dallas Cowboys. Now that you've had a week to look back on that game, what's your assessment of what happened that night in Dallas?
Well, I would say this. It really unfolded from a scoring standpoint. I felt it was going to be a lower scoring game. Their defense is playing good football. And I kicked myself for 2 or 3 different situations in that game of not handling them the right way. And we have an opportunity to score. It's 4th and 2, and I know our 4th down numbers are good, and I felt like we had a good plan, and yet in that type of game, kicked the field goal because I didn't feel that was going to be a 30-something to 20-something game at all. I felt going in, patience was going to have to be, something that we valued, ball security, and we were able to, get the takeaways defensively, field position in the kicking game. So we can say the first thing I'd say is I don't want to shortchange what I think is a much improved Cowboys team that had played 1-3 in a row and just won a 4th, and they're playing exceptionally well. And then from our standpoint, of managing that a little bit better, and you come away with a tough road win, and regardless of how it happened, it happened in Baltimore, 21-20, that type of game. I just felt like it was going to be a lower scoring game, and yet I didn't manage it the same way.
You touched on a very compelling topic and very timely now in the NFL. I spoke to Doug Pederson, the Eagles coach, recently about this. All the factors that come into play when you're making that decision on 4th down, go for it or not. Going for 2, go for it or not. Give us an idea of everything that's in your own personal stew of what influences your decision in those moments. You've already mentioned whether or not you think it's going to be a high-scoring game.
Question.
What all goes into it?
That's a great question. Because this is the challenge, and this is what and this is what will drive the analysts crazy. And yet, the numbers and the situations relative to percentages are important. But how do we feel like with our play inventory at that point in the game? So if I'm inside the 5-yard line, and I've got a section of 2-point plays that, let's say I love 2 of these. I mean, I love them. Well, certainly I would love them enough to score 6 points with them, right? I mean, I'm not going to – as much as I love this play from the 2, I'm going to wait in case we need it in the second half. So I'm like, hey, I don't know how many times I'm going to be inside that 5. And if this is a 2-point play, but it also is a play I like, we'll call it in the first quarter to score a touchdown. So – what's your play inventory like at that point relative to where you're at in the game? And that would be more inside the 5 and 2-point play or going for it. How's the game going? I honestly, and I'm old school this way, I'm not interested in that 2-point chart in a lower scoring game in the third quarter. I'm not. And so now in a higher scoring game, I'm going to look at that chart a little earlier, and yet it still wouldn't be well into the second half. Now, 4th down, 38-yard line, who are we playing? How are we matching up? I was asked a question once about a game 4 years ago, and why didn't you consider? And I said, well, had you looked at the matchup over at our left tackle position? And so during the course of that game, that matchup was one where we were really struggling. And so these things that can change in game with injury, or just, hey, I don't like the way this is going. Lawrence Taylor has hit my quarterback 3 out of the last 5 times we've taken a drop to throw the football. So those have to factor in. But I do think we are all seeing a little bit more we're seeing a little less conservative approach, outside of field goal range, 4th down. I think that would be the one thing that all of us as coaches think more about maybe than the punt going in. You know, the thing that always, and Morstead, we've got a real good punter, but there's nothing worse than you're in that like cusp and you're like, all right, let's punt it and pin him back, and that thing takes one of those skips into the end zone, and then it comes out to the 20, and then you look at it and you're like, we could have thrown an interception there.
Why do you think that's changed, though? Why do you think coaches are now more willing to go for it in those spots?
No, I think you're starting to, when you can put numbers together that talk relative to your team, because you can talk on a league average 32, but you know, each team is compared differently, and so what are our numbers and what are our percentages, and then you can actually put on paper, hey, here's why. And so I do think that's where analytics have changed in a positive way. I mean, in a good way, very, because you can go through these scenarios, which we do, and we've got an analyst here, and shoot, each week Mark will give me a litany of things that happen during the week with other games, you know, mistakes made or maybe not, and then the analytics of the game we're getting ready to play and key factors. I think we're more educated.
There's so much I can get to with you here, and I know you're busy. I want to take a broader look at the NFL. You're on the competition committee. There was a story earlier this week, and these are quotes from Rich McKay, and it's part of this program to make the punt safer. They're crowdsourcing ideas. There's a lot of confusion about what's wrong with the punt as it's currently configured. Do you have a feel for why there's an urgency to change the punt play, to make the punt play more safer, and what's dangerous about the punt in comparison to the kickoff?
I don't know specifically. I would say the one unusual thing about the punt play, and this I think we'll see changed in the next 5 years, it's the only play where these gunners potentially will literally fly through the sidelines, back up, and they get forced out of bounds, and then the jammers have to run not in the white, but wait for them to come back in the field to play to hit them. So it's the only play where there's elements to the punt coverage unit that are played on the sidelines, not in the field. and you've seen crazy looks where that jammer goes behind 3 players in the bench and pops out, you know, later on down the sideline. So I think I don't have the numbers though statistically relative to injuries, and I listen. I saw the come up with an idea and submit it and that whole thing, and that's all good.
Well, we'll see what they do with that, Coach, and we'll see how the rest of the season goes for you. We wish you all the best. I know you're really busy. I'll let you get back to work, and we look forward to talking to you again soon.
It sounds good. All right, Mike. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.